welcome to Hotwire Native Live number 4. This week we are talking about route decision handlers, something that I have not used yet. This is going to be a really fun dive into how I explore APIs, how the Hotwire Native source code is written. We're going to be doing a lot of coding, a lot of exploration. So as Marco, welcome, has already kicked it off in the chat, like if you have questions, drop them into the chat and I can pop them up on the screen just like this, and we can answer them as we work through today's topic of route decision handlers. Real quick, I'm Joe Mazzolotti, Hotwire Native guy. I've been doing Hotwire Native forever, since it was like in private beta in 2016. If you need help with your Hotwire Native apps, check out my website, mazzolotti.com. That has newsletter, a book, an email course coming soon. Drop me a comment if you want early access to that, and lots of free resources for building your own apps. So, enough about me, and let's dive in. All right, from South Africa, I love it. Welcome. And thank you. Okay, so drop you over there, and what we're going to do here is make me tiny. So, back on April 11th, but most importantly, this was introduced in 1.2 on Hotwire Native iOS. Dennis, 37 Signals employee here, introduced route decision handlers. And this was actually a concept that already existed on Android back from 2024, where Jay, the kind of like the lead maintainer of both of these platforms, created a way to route different behavior in the app. It didn't get brought over to iOS until 1.2 because we had a way of doing this already, but much less powerful. We had, if you ever used handle external URL, that's what this replaces. So there's a lot of text in this. If you want to check it out, I'm going to drop a link in the chat there if you want to look at it on your own. I'm just using it as a reference here because we're going to just explore the APIs directly in a project. But what we need to know is that a router can navigate and a router can cancel. And based on this, we can do different things in our app. So there's 3 built-in routers, this app, navigation, browser, and Safari. So we'll see how those are used, what their kind of purpose is, and then also we'll dive into how we can write our own custom one. So I have a iOS app here. Scene controller should look pretty familiar. This is kind of like copy pasted directly from the Getting Started guide. Yeah, let's just clean that up a little bit so it's got a little more spread out. I'm using Hotwire Native 1.2.1, the latest release that came out, I think just yesterday, but it's the same for 1.2. So if your app is still on 1.2, no worries there. Okay, let's run this and see what we're working with. I have a basic CRUD app. We sign in and we get kind of a blog where we have screen titles. We have, we can edit content. Nothing too exciting. We don't actually really care about what this content is. I'm actually going to rerun this and make sure that we stay signed in, because if not, yeah, we're not. So what we're going to do here is just really quick, open up our authentication and make sure that our cookies are permanent. And that will make sure that we get a session ID and we stay signed in throughout app launches. Little bonus tip for everyone there. And boom, we're signed in. Okay, so now we're in a good spot. We can sign out, we can add a post. We have no path configuration, so no modals or anything. But what are these configurations and how do they work, right? So if we open up our app delegate, we would register these kind of like how we would do, let's import Hotwire Native. So we can register bridge components, right? Maybe you're familiar with that. We can add our bridge component.self there and a list of them. We can also register route decision handlers and web view policy decision handlers. Those are a little bit more advanced. I haven't dug into those really at all. So if we have time, maybe we'll dive in, but we're going to focus on the route decision handlers today. Thanks, that doesn't help. So it's an array. And what is a route decision handler? So if I GD for go to definition or command click on it, we can get the implementation of the Hotwire register route decision handlers. And then I'm going to click on route decision handler, which is a protocol, an interface to provide custom route decision handling behaviors in your app. It has 3 required functions / properties. It needs a name, a matches function, and then a handle function. Matches is like, hey, should this handler do something? If it returns true, then handle is called. And then you decide if you want to reject or accept it. And then if in handle, you get to do all of your logic, you could reject it, but like open up the Safari view controller or whatever. So Command-Shift-J is, I'm going to show this file in the Explorer over here. And you see that we're in Hotwire Native. We have these 3 handlers: app navigation, Safari, view controller, and system navigation, right? So those are the 3 that are built in to Hotwire Native iOS. And those, if we search globally for this, we see that in our Hotwire config, when we create a router, this router is used. It's private. This router automatically registers these 3 handlers in this order, right? So out of the box, you already have these 3 handlers given to you, and they get passed down the stack. So if this one returns false, it goes to this one. If this one returns false, it goes to this one, etc. What I'm going to do is open up our app navigation decision handler. And remember, we have that name, a matches, and a handle. So I'm going to set a breakpoint right here and a breakpoint right here. And I'm going to just click on set native screen titles. You'll see that we hit this breakpoint, right? We have, the framework has asked us, does this match? You click the link. Should this route decision handler handle it, right? And what it's doing is it's looking at the start location, the first URL that we visited, and it's saying, is the host the same as the host of the new URL? If so, return true, right? So this is going to return true. I can copy down at the bottom here and print object. Wait for X2. This is going to return true, which means it's going to go right down into the handle function. Continue. And if this handles something, if this matches, it's always going to say navigate. Router decision is either navigate or cancel. So I'm going to click continue, and boom, we navigate on the screen. So this is just kind of like the catch-all for, is this URL on the same host or domain as the original start location that we had when we first launched the app? If we were to change this, well, actually I can't change it because it's part of the package. So what we're going to do here is in our app delegate, we're going to copy this, the 3 that we had, right, that we get for free, and we're going to register them right here. These are registering Hotwire natives, but we want to register our own. So what we're going to do is call this demo app navigation route decision handler, and we're going to implement it, our own one right here. So class demo app navigation route decision handler is a route decision handler. I'm going to build, right? Demo app navigation. It's saying, hey, you don't actually implement that protocol. I'd love some help Xcode. Boom, done. So name is a string. We're going to call this demo app. And then matches, we're just going to return true. And here we're going to return navigate. Right? So we build. We are now matching any URL that comes in. We're always going to let this call handle. Breakpoint, breakpoint, rerun the app. And we're there, right? So I got confused because it switched the screen around. So we're in here, we matched, and we then are navigate, of course, because that first URL was visited. If we were to return cancel here, watch what happens. I'm gonna run the app. Now every URL's navigation is going to be canceled. We have nothing. We didn't present anything. I'm a little large there. Let's just squash me down a little bit. We canceled every navigation that's happening because we are always getting matched and we're always canceling. So nothing happens. Not too useful. So I don't really care about this one, but so let's go back to the three main ones. Remember back in the day, maybe like a few months ago, we used to have this thing where we could have a navigator and we give a delegate and we say self, right? Lazy var and blah, 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 blah. Extension, scene delegate, navigator, delegate, right? So we would do something like, the handle proposal function where we would accept it, or write our own view controller. We used to have something called handle external URL, right? And that doesn't exist anymore. That's not part of Navigator Delegate as of 1.2. You can see it's not in this list anymore. If we go back to 1.2 or 1.1, it would be in there. So how do we handle an external URL? That is exactly what our, let me just get this back. Build, sweet. Our Safari view controller, route decision handler, and system navigation route decision handler do. So Safari here is saying, when do we match? Okay, first let's make sure that we have an HTTP or HTTPS scheme. So we're visiting a web URL. And then do that same thing we did earlier, make sure that it's on the same, it's not on the same host. So now we have something that's an HTTP or HTTPS URL, but the host or the domain is different from the first URL that we visited. So external, right? Hotwire Native uses Turbo.js under the hood. It can only navigate across the same domain. Even subdomains can mess this up because it's doing a JavaScript visit. So, cores and all that will get in the way. And what's happening here, it's saying essentially if you have an external URL, return true, right? Call handle. We're canceling it. We're saying don't navigate via JavaScript. Don't get out of Hotwire Native world. Instead, open this directly in SF Safari view controller. Okay? So that's saying don't make the navigation through Hotwire Native, but instead open SF Safari view controller, which is that embedded browser, right? So let's create a, let's trigger that, right? We have our, let's see. We have a show page, and we can create a link to Google. Yeah, no, let's make it fun. Mazzolati.com. And button, link, right? So we get that. Let's run this. We'll set our breakpoint. This is our app navigation one. We don't care about that one anymore. We're gonna get rid of those breakpoints. But in our Safari view controller one, we're gonna set our breakpoints on there. And there. Okay, so we click through, we get our app one. We now have our link to Mazzolati.com. When we click that, we are now in our Safari view controller route decision handler, because the app decision handler, the app navigation route decision handler, let me run that again. This is the first link. I'm going to ignore that one. Second link, ignore that one. So when I click Mazzolati.com, the configuration dot start location host does not equal the location dot host, because the location dot host is Mazzolati.com, but the start location host is localhost. So those are not the same, right? So this matches app navigation route decision handler is saying, hey, I can't handle this. Hotwire Native is stepping out. You need to do the next one in the list, which is our Safari one. So this now we just saw that, but opposite, so this is no longer true. So we get down to this open external URL. We now have a Safari view controller. It's presenting it on top of our view controller, and we get that nice slider from the bottom. Hotwire Native is not involved in this at all. This is just a embedded, not even embedded, it's just a web view. And we now can see this as a nice little browser. So we have all, check out my newsletter, right? Look at the archives or whatever. Hey, look, that's us. So that's how the Safari view controller works. It's also a really good example of how this kind of like chains down the stack. But what happens if Safari view controller route decision handler returns false? So now we're talking about one of two things. It's either not an HTTP, HTTPS URL. Well, I guess this would be true. It wouldn't have gotten here. So that means that it is not an HTTP or HTTPS URL. So that's something like this. That is where we're talking, like a text me URL, where we're doing SMS 555. Right? So on the web, if we click that link, we're going to open messages, right? Because it's an SMS URL. If on your phone, it would just open messages. I'm not going to do that right now, but on... So we fall back into this. And here, right, the location host, this is another check. This actually probably doesn't even need to be there because the way that it's set up in a way, that order, but it's just a safety precaution. All this is doing is calling UI application shared open location, right? So let's run this. Click our link. Text me. So now we have a location of the URL of SMS : 555, a text link, right? And it's going to just say to the OS, hey, open this URL directly. And what happens is we open messages with a text to that new thing. The simulator, it's not a contact, so it freaks out here, but that will be 555, etc. So that's how this system navigation route decision handler works. And this is really useful because it allows us to open URLs that are not web-based and allows us to do custom logic, right? So one thing that has been helpful that I've thought about using this for is if I have like a custom scheme that I don't want to open, you can parse that URL out or kind of like extract different information from it in your app navigation decision handler to do different things. Remember, all we need to tell the protocol to respond with is navigate or not. If we do cancel, we can open Safari view controller. We could, like we did before, open the system thing. So here's an improvement that we could work on where I'm going to copy paste the system navigation one. And we're going to call it demo. And we're going to register it right there. So, what are you doing, R? So we don't need these two. They are redundant in our own app, kind of. So we have our demo one that's going to fall back. So anything now that's not same domain and not HTTP, HTTPS will call down here. Right? I'm going to clean this up a little bit because we're always running iOS 16 just to make it a little bit easier to read. And here we are going to, I'll demo this to see why this is important. So if we did a email me link and we did mail to, right? On the web, if I click email me with a mail to link, it opens hey, and it's sending me a new email, right? On our app though, email me, there's our breakpoint saying new application shared open, doesn't do anything. And that's because the simulator and potentially your end user's device, your user's iPhone, doesn't have a mail client installed, right? So I get this error down here actually. NS OS status null. What does this actually mean, right? Are we gonna get anything from this? Of course, like, it should go right to the Apple documentation. But what this is saying is like, hey, I can't open this URL. I don't know how to open a mail to link on this device. This isn't specific to iOS. It's just saying like this device cannot open it. So what we're going to do here is in our custom one, our demo system navigation handler, what we're going to do here is say first, if UI application, let's think about this. If we can't open it, we want to, no, we do want to handle it. We want it to match, right? But we don't want to handle it. So what we're going to do is say, if UI application shared can open URL, right? Then we want to open it. But otherwise, we want to, let's just for now print, hey, you can't open this. Let's see what happens now. And if we try to email me, we get our little log. So we know that this device cannot open this URL. We've checked that it can open it, and if they do, we open it. So to prove that, right, we'll have our text me. So we've text me and email me. Text me works, no problem. Email me. Yeah, you can't open this, right? Not very helpful to the user. They can't see that. So let's instead present to the user a alert, right? So alert equals UI alert controller. Your device cannot open this URL. And then we'll add alert, add action. It's going to be okay, default. And then we're going to say our navigator dot active navigation controller dot visible view controller present our alert. Whoa. Okay, so if they can open the URL, open it. Otherwise, present an alert on the visible view controller of the active navigation controller that says you can't open this. Let's give that a go. Text me, works no problem. Email me, your device cannot open this URL. Not the best error message, of course, but like much more helpful because we're now saying we're saying to the user, why did nothing happen when I clicked this, right? A little bit more helpful there. So I like that approach. Do be careful though that can open URL, do I get a warning down here? No. Can open URL there you go. If you link your app on iOS 9, you must declare the URL schemes you pass to this method. So this is saying actually that it's always going to return false unless you declare which URL schemes you are going to add. So anything that's not SMS, tel, mail to, phone, and HTTP, HTTPS, like the default ones, you'll need to add to your plist. So this is saying if you want to open deep link inside the Facebook or the X app, right? They have their own URL scheme where you can do Facebook, or I think it's FB/:/ and then a link, or Google Maps or whatever. If you're going to call can open URL, you have to add that entry to your plist, and you can only add 50 of them. The reason for this is that apps used to, before this was implemented back in iOS 8 or below, there would be apps that kind of would just run can open URL for a huge number of values, and anything that returned true told the developer which iOS apps you had installed on your device. So a big privacy issue there, where they can see all of the apps that you have if they respond to any sort of custom URL scheme. So now you're only limited to 50 entries. And yeah, does anyone have more than 50 apps installed? Probably, but like it at least limits it that you'll only be able to look for the top 50 that you care about, right? And there's also some more, yeah, you can only call this method up to 50 times also. Otherwise, and then every time it will turn false. Oh, interesting. This is new. Unlike this method, the open options completion handler method isn't constrained. Oh. So this might be a good pull request, actually. So this is saying you get a callback that tells you if it worked or not. Ooh, let's try this. This is new. So we're going to get rid of this. No, we're going to get rid of this. No, we'll keep it. So UI application, shared, open, URL options, completion handler. Interesting. So this is saying try to open it, but if it failed, we can then show the alert. Interesting. Let's give that a run. Because if that's not constrained, then we don't need to actually do anything to our plist. Like, that's really nice. Text me, works no problem. Email me. Oh, that's much cleaner. Very cool. So if we didn't have to provide a string, a text to the user that is telling them why, this could be something that made it upstream into into Hotwire Native iOS directly. But I think that it's safer to just, this is how many lines of code, right? It's not too much. I mean, if we really care about it, we can drop this and drop that. So we're looking at 20 to 52. It's like 30 lines of code. I don't know. I could see it going either way. It also feels like something that is not super, doesn't happen very often, so to speak. So I don't know. Either way, I'm going to start using this in my apps because that is really nice. I'd probably pull this out into a helper or something just because it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, pretty cool. Hey, Jasper, welcome. We just finished going through how to add a handler if we can't open an external URL, which I've never done before using these route decision handlers. Yeah, so going back to the PR, we have the route decision handlers, and then we have this web view policy manager. Let's take a look at these really quick, and they're very similar API. We're going to clean up all this. We're going to get rid of this, and we're going to do Hotwire, register, web view, policy decision handlers, and let's go there. A web view policy decision handler is an interface to provide custom web view policy decision handling handling behaviors in your app. And look, it has a matches and a handle. It looks very similar. The only difference is that we have a return function. A return from handle is a web view policy manager decision, which is allow and cancel. It looks pretty similar. So very, very similar approach. Let's see what we get out of the box, right? We get 4. Interesting. Let's open the demo app and see. Do we not register for any of them? That'd be surprising. Hotwire. That's where we register it. That's where we register it. Ah, here we are. I should have known. Right where we were, where we had the default decision handlers, we have the default web view policy manager decision handlers. 4, just like we had a reload, a new window, an external navigation web view, and a link activated. Let's see what these do. Reload. A web view policy decision handler intercepts navigation actions intended to reload the page. Interesting. Okay, so this is saying like when the navigation action that comes in should reload the page, cancel it, and instead call reload on the navigator. This in red looks pretty custom. Let's command click. Is mainframe navigation, so it's happening on the frame that we're looking at, and navigation type is reload. Reload is part of, whoops. So we're getting the navigation type and it's saying like, I think that's for pull to reload, pull to refresh. Let's take a look there. Huh. I wonder when this is triggered. When is navigation type reload activated? The web page was reloaded. Oh, you know what this is probably? If I debug this, localhost 1, and I reload from here. There it is. So when a JavaScript reload is triggered, we get navigation type reload. So that's pretty cool. So this is saying when this happens, when we get a JavaScript reload, cancel it and call navigator.reload instead. I'm curious if we instead didn't add our reload web view policy decision handler, right? Would a reload push a new screen on the stack? Let's see. So let's go to where was that? Router? Nice. So okay, so we have our reload policy, new window. We're just going to comment out reload. So now we're overriding the ones that are registered by default. Doing this doesn't change anything, but when we reload, let's see if we reload through. I don't know what's going to happen here. Let's see. Reload. Command R. Nothing. Nothing. Nothing happens. Nothing at all happens? Is it hitting the server? Oh, interesting. It doesn't actually do anything. I guess that's why. So that handler is there to say when it's a reload action, call navigator.reload instead of canceling it, it seems like. That's pretty cool. Okay, so that's reload policy. New window policy. This is a cool one. This handles request new window is the target is not mainframe. So this is where we start talking about links that are new window. So it's going to be like, let's open the index page and we have our list of posts. So post is a link to, right? If we did target blank, right? I'm pretty sure that's how we trigger this one. So let's set a breakpoint there and can't reload. Click that. Navigation action request URL doesn't equal nil. Great. Navigation action is link activated. No. Match found for handler. New window policy. Okay, we did match. And then we're going to step into it. Oh, it didn't go to the next line. Here? Got it. So we make sure there's a URL, we unwrap that, and we just call navigator.route. Interesting. Okay, so that was a bug that was, I think this is actually what introduced this in the first place. Earlier, if we didn't have this new window web policy decision handler, which I will demonstrate by commenting this line out, links that have target blank open the same. Interesting. That is not what I expected. Whoops, killed the simulator. What I expected there is that a new link would have bounced us to Safari, or clicking that link would have bounced us to Safari, or would have bounced us to Safari View Controller. I'm curious as to why. Yeah, so it opens a new tab in Safari, so that's wired up at least correctly. Huh. That is not what I expected. So let's see why. So print object navigation action dot request dot URL. That's not, doesn't equal nil, so that's true. And PO navigation action dot should open externally is also true. So we're getting true here. Oh, I'm in external. Sorry. I want to be a new window. Moving too fast. All right. Navigation action, cool. Navigation action is link activated, also true. And requests new window, also true. What is that? Indicates if the navigation action requests a new window. Example, target blank. Oh, look at that. Okay, well, we wrote that. That's why. So this was returning true, which means we're getting into the handle function, and we're calling navigator.route URL. I'm very curious as to why. So yeah, this works, sure. But when we get rid of it, why it doesn't just open differently, right? Like it behaves the same way. Okay, so it's falling down to one of these when I comment all of them out. Is it link activated? I wonder if that one's not needed. No? So it's the external one. This external navigation is kind of, yeah, so what does this one do? Same thing. So what's the difference between external and new window? The only difference is link activated. Oh, requests new window versus should open URL externally. So requests new window versus should open URL externally. Oh, other. I guess it just falls back to that, but I don't know. I feel like this new window one isn't actually needed. There's probably a scenario where I'm not catching it. Interesting that we can trigger it through a different approach. I don't know. That's cool. Whoops. So, and then the last one is link activated, which, yeah, it's just the fallback. And again, it cancels it, preventing the web view. Huh. So these are all very similar. Link activated and is mainframe. External is should open should open URL externally. But you'll notice that they all, when they match, they all cancel and they provide their own behavior. This one just cancels it because it's like the last resort. That's pretty cool. So for something here that you could do is if you're doing like HTTP auth, like, you know, that where you get the little old school pop-up dialog, you could handle that through one of these and be like, hey, don't let Hotwire Native handle this. Throw a custom dialog up or like a SwiftUI screen or something and route it through that. You could also do things where you're like, oh, they switched URL schemes or not URL schemes, they switched domains. Like, what do you want to do there? Oh, cancel it and spin up a new navigator. So for like subdomain multi-tenancy. This one's a little bit more obscure, I feel, a little bit lower level. I wouldn't be surprised if you never touch these. I've never had to touch them. I don't know. It's pretty cool. Question from Bruce here. With all the new functionality, let me do this. With all the new functionality, will my book be updated or will it be left for another edition? Will the book updated based on new functionality? The book will not be updated. The book is with the copy editor right now, and when it comes back to me, I sign off on it and it goes to the printer. So the book is coming out. The book content is finalized at this point. That said, the book is way more about like getting started, covering the basics, getting folks that are Rails developers getting their feet wet with Hotwire Native. And the topics I covered today are definitely way more advanced. Better served for you know, my blog, tutorials, newsletter, stuff like that. All that said, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a version 2 of the book that comes out, you know, in 2026, like next year or the following year, that covers all of this. If Hotwire Native ever hits a 2.0, there'll probably be a second edition of the book. But to be honest, like, maybe by then I'll have advanced Hotwire Native, right? Where it covers more, where we can go into really deep into native screens, or we can go deep into authentication or third-party auth, like social auth. And the book that's out now will stay because it covers a different audience. I don't know. Lots of ideas. And outside of the book, though, like I said it earlier, I'm thinking of doing an email course, right? I got some of that worked already. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Look at that, 15 minutes left. That kind of concludes what I wanted to cover. We talked about the route decision handlers, which I think are really powerful and you might not ever need, but when you do, you have them. And this now opens the floor for any questions that you might have. If you wanted to talk about, you know, questions you're running into with your app or things that you need help with Hotwire Native, or just like still confused about some stuff, now is the time to bring up those questions. I'll pop them on the screen and we can dive into some of that. Already we got Bruce here with a question. What do I think of Swift now that I've been using it for a while? I like Swift. Spoiler, I have been using Swift since it came out. Like, I've been doing Swift since before I was doing Hotwire Native. Before I was doing Rails, I was doing iOS apps, right? I like Swift. I like a compiled language for client-based apps. And I think that Swift, the sad thing about Swift, though, is that I think that it's kind of, it went like this in terms of complexity. It was like kind of obscure, and then it got easier and easier and easier and easier. And now with Swift 6, it's kind of ramping back up again. You have to know a lot about, not multi-tenancy, asynchronous and which thread things are running on. A lot of it can be ignored by just like slapping a main actor on things, that at main actor. But I don't know. I feel like it's getting a little bit more complicated. And if it wasn't for Android itself, Kotlin's pretty good. Like, I was surprised at how Kotlin can handle some things elegantly with that Swift kind of struggles with. The Kotlin, the IDE, you know, JetBrains does a great work with that, the Android Studio. So you get a lot more like, fix this code, and it just works without AI. It's just like built like compiler rules, which is cool. But I'll be honest, like if I could write all of this in Ruby, I'd be hard pressed to stop. Ruby is just so much more elegant than any of these things. Obviously, JavaScript, that it Swift and Kotlin are so far behind in my mind of like what you can do with Ruby in 5 keywords or something versus what takes 5 files sometimes, in Swift and Kotlin. But that's what Ruby was made for: developer happiness. Great question there. Anyone else has any other questions? Just pop them in the chat, and I will answer those as they come in. While I wait for that, I wanted to quickly touch on something that I've been cooking up the last couple of days while I wait for my book edits to come back. I am building a course, an email course for Hotwire Native. It's going to be like kind of like a get started. So I guess wait, do I not have it on GitHub? Blog demo. Oh, right. So this is a public URL. It's a Hotwire Native blog demo. It's the stuff we were just working with here. It's all the source code for the Rails app side of this. It is a just way to get started really easily if you don't have a Rails server or you're just too complicated to dive into. It's just a couple screens, very few requirements. But what I'm doing here, and you can actually look at it by looking at the branches because it's all public, is these are check-ins for the course. And I'm thinking of kind of reworking a lot of the book content into an email course for folks that are like, I need to get started. I have 5 days to build an app. Like, let's go. If you want access to that early, send me an email and I can get you on that list early before it is released. I wasn't sharing my screen that whole time. I apologize. This URL here, which I'm going to drop in the comments, is the URL to the blog demo, which we were working with this whole time. Really nice to just get started. And then if you go to the branches, you can see what I have so far for the courses. Shoot me an email or a comment if you want to get early access to that. Brian really enjoyed apps when using Ruby Motion. Yeah, I feel like I came in late when Ruby Motion was like just at the end, or like people were like, don't use it, or I was just doing native stuff. So I never worked with Ruby Motion, but I have seen some code from it, and it does feel like we might, I don't know, maybe Ruby Motion gets revived for Hotwire Native, because the big problem with Ruby Motion that I found when I was like tinkering with it is that you still needed to know all of the iOS and Android APIs. Right? You still had to deal, if you want to make a table view, you had to know that like table view did select row at index path, like monster function. And it was like, sure, you're writing Ruby, but you're still building with Swift or Apple and Android APIs and SDKs. So I don't know, but now with Hotwire Native, we can create Swift and APIs that sit on top of all of that are very Ruby-esque. And I don't know, maybe now is the time to revive that. Like, what is Ruby Motion still around? Is it deprecated Ruby Motion? I guess it is still around. I haven't used it in a very long time. Can't handle Swift. That's unfortunate. So what does it compile down to? Web? Oh, I guess news for 2020 is their latest post, so I guess it is kind of not around anymore. But be cool. I don't know. I'm not gonna revive it, but if someone does, it could be cool to migrate Hotwire Native to using or supporting Ruby first. Would be pretty cool. Objective C. Okay. I mean, if Ruby Motion supports Objective C, then Hotwire Native technically could work with Objective-C projects, but if it doesn't do any like interop to Swift, there'd be a big layer to build there. Yeah, I don't know. Not for me. Alrighty, I'm gonna check. Let's see. I don't think I get Twitter posts or Twitter replies to this, so let's just make sure I don't have any comments there. Nah. Alrighty. Well, I think that'll do it for today, folks. If you want to know more about Hotwire Native, please just check out my website, Mazzolati.com. There is a lot of free content there that will help you elevate your Hotwire Native development. There's a link to my book that's coming out in just a few, I think like in a month, maybe a month and a day or something, but it's very soon until the print version's coming out. It's going to be sitting right there when I get it. And that will teach you how to build a Hotwire Native app from scratch for both platforms. And you'll get links to all these things like my live sessions, upcoming courses, and all of that all on the blog. As always, if you need help with your apps, shoot me an email. It's joe at that URL at the bottom of the screen, and I will be able to help you as much as I can, and we can go from there. Bruce has one more question that I'm going to answer, and then we're going to wrap up for today. I know I'm on a delay to what you see, so I'm going to take a sip of coffee. Thank you, everyone who dropped by. And all right. Hardware requirements for developing with both iOS and Android. I'm guessing you mean computer hardware requirements, memory specifically. So you'll need Mac OS. So I would definitely recommend a MacBook Pro versus a MacBook Air. You'll get a little bit more RAM just to help you. Android Studio is kind of a beast in terms of memory. I think it will use like 4 gigs if you give it to it, like just sitting idle. And then the emulator is another like 2 gigs. The iOS simulator is a couple gigs. Let me see what I'm running. I'm running 32 gigs right now of RAM on an M2 Max, I think, or an M2 Pro. M2 Max. And I have never heard my fans come on doing iOS and Android at the same time and a Rails server, but I would definitely recommend you want 16. Like, oh, do I think 24 gig is okay? I think you'd be fine with 24. Yeah, I would say 16 is like the minimum because you're going to want to be running a Rails server, your IDE, even if that's just Vim, Xcode, Android Studio, the iOS simulator, and the Android simulator sometimes all at the same time, which can really chug through your memory. With 32, I've never run into an issue. I think with 24, you should be okay too. But if you're okay with things being a little bit slow, 16 is probably fine. That said, if you are devoting professional time to Hotwire Native, like I just max out the memory if you can afford it, because it's going to pay for itself in the long run in terms of how much time you'll save just waiting for crap to happen and for not having to close Android Studio to open Xcode and vice versa. But I expense mine. So, when I write the check for $4,000 for a new laptop, it's tax deductible. It's for my own business and stuff. It's a little bit different, of course, than everyone. Hopefully that helped, Bruce. Great question. Let's get rid of that. And yeah, no problem. So, do I have a... No. That's all for today, everyone. We're going to try to do this every week. I'm out in the next 2 weeks, though. I'm going on a little vacation with my family, and then it will be RailsConf. I'm doing a Hotwire Native workshop that Wednesday at RailsConf. If you're going, come say hi. I'd love to meet you in person, and we'll resume these in that week after. All right, everyone. It was great to see you, and thanks for dropping by. I'll catch you soon. Bye.